Hi, everyone. We're just going to give it a couple minutes, let everyone join in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, AI That Works the Way You Hire. Today's conversation is centered around one idea that hiring is for your business, and that's your business is unique. Today, we're going to show you why your AI should be too. So before we get started, I'd like to cover a few quick housekeeping updates. Today's session is going to be recorded, so we'll share that recording along with the presentation with everyone tomorrow. We'll have some time at the end for Q&A, so make sure to use the chat and the Q&A to submit any questions, and we'll make sure to have time at the end to go through those questions. And with that, let's meet your presenters. Today, I'm joined by two people that have been instrumental in shaping Hireology's AI strategy. Our co-founder and CEO, Adam Robinson, and our Chief Product and Technology Officer, John Ussermley. And with that, Adam, I'll pass it right over to you.
Great. Thanks, Meg. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here today. But before we talk about AI, let's start with what hiring actually looks like for the types of teams and customers we serve. Frontline hiring comes with very different pressures. Applications for these roles can come in much faster than any one human can reasonably review them. And the person doing that review is often a hiring manager that's not just responsible for staffing their own team, but they're also responsible for managing everything else that they're responsible for. They've got to do the actual work in addition to hiring. At the same time, they may have dozens of managers across multiple locations, each making decisions about what a good candidate looks like. But when the process moves too slowly, the candidates you actually want move on before your team ever has the chance to talk to them. So the challenge isn't simply getting more applicants. That doesn't solve the problem. It's being able to quickly understand which candidates actually have what the job requires and to do it consistently and at scale so that you don't miss anyone. Now, AI is everywhere right now, but the question for hiring teams isn't simply whether AI is available. It's whether that AI is actually built to solve the problems that they're facing. Our research found that 63% of employers identify candidate quality and skills match as their biggest hiring challenge. Now, that's important because it tells us where the real problem is. Hiring teams don't necessarily need more candidates, they need more confidence. They need more confidence that the candidates they're spending time on actually have the skills and qualifications that the job requires. At the same time, 40% of employers haven't implemented AI in hiring anywhere in the process. So, despite all the attention around AI, a significant portion of hiring teams are still trying to figure out what role or roles it should actually play in their hiring process. And even among organizations exploring AI for hiring, 70% describe their understanding of AI as moderate or limited. So there's a gap, not just in adoption, but in understanding how to apply AI effectively to your hiring process. And that creates a really interesting moment for hiring teams. There's a really clear problem to solve. There's growing interest in AI, but there's still a lot of uncertainty around what a really good AI-powered hiring system should actually look like. So for us, that brought the conversation back to the problem that matters most. Can AI actually help a hiring team identify candidates who are a better fit for the job? So AI itself is no longer the differentiator. Nearly every major hiring platform is adding AI in some form. So the question isn't, does your hiring platform have AI? Most of them do now. The real question to ask is, what does that AI actually understand about hiring for you? So when you look at how generic AI approaches hiring, there's some important gaps, and I want to cover them here. Every role can end up being evaluated through the same generic logic. A service technician and a front desk agent and a caregiver don't require the same skills or qualifications. I mean, that's obvious on its face. Um, but generic AI will generally treat them all as the same carbon copy interview format. A multi-location hiring introduces a whole other challenge. So when you have managers hiring for roles across dozens or hundreds of locations, the goal isn't simply to evaluate individual candidates. That's part of it. It's also to create consistency across your network around what good looks like. Transparency matters as well. If the AI tool cannot show you why a candidate was surfaced, it's difficult for a hiring manager to understand or even trust the recommendation. And finally, and this is a big one, compliance can't be an afterthought in this process. So the criteria you're evaluating and the way recommendations are made need to be understandable, they need to be traceable, and they need to be defensible. Now, these aren't simply AI hiring challenges. They're just hiring challenges. They've existed forever. And AI has the ability to really add value to improving this process, but you have to do it the right way, and you have to implement it in a way that's built for the way your business runs. So most of the AI you see out there isn't built for frontline multi-location hiring realities. We believe at Hireology that hiring is unique to your industry, and your AI for hiring should be too. A service technician, a healthcare worker, and a hospitality employee do not have the same skills, qualifications, or hiring process required. So, what makes someone a strong candidate depends on a number of things, among them the job, the business, and the context of that business, and the way that the team in that organization actually wants to do their hiring. So, if AI is going to help solve the candidate quality issue, it really needs to understand the context that you live in. So, what does it actually mean for AI to be built for your way of hiring? There are some fundamental differences between generic AI and what we've built here at Hireology. Generic AI is designed to be broadly applicable. It can be used across industries, use cases, and workflows, which is exactly what can make it powerful, in terms of its use. But what it also means is it isn't inherently designed around the realities of frontline hiring. Hireology AI, on the other hand, is built on 16 years of hiring data and experience. So it's designed specifically around frontline hiring and the needs of skilled labor and multi-location employers. So that means the AI can be grounded in the context that actually matters when you're evaluating candidates. It's the type of role you're looking for, it's the skills and the qualifications that matter, and the realities and complexity of trying to drive hiring consistency across an organization that spans dozens or hundreds of locations. Since that's really unique use case. And that's the difference between adding some bolt-on generic AI hiring tool to a platform and actually building intelligence around the way that you actually hire and want to use this. All right, so how did we apply that intelligence to the hiring experience for our markets? Well, we started with the hiring journey itself. We looked at the places where better intelligence could make the biggest difference. First, understanding the candidate. Second, evaluating whether they're actually a fit for the job. And then finally, gathering the information needed to make a better hiring decision. And those are all areas where we've applied AI in our new tool set. And the goal is to give hiring teams better insight at the moments where candidate quality really matters the most. So we wanted a really clear way to measure whether we're solving the problem. So success isn't about how many AI capabilities we can shove into a product. It's really about whether those capabilities help you identify better fit candidates and help you make better hiring decisions. So for 16 years, we've been sitting at the center of the hiring process for frontline and multi-location employers. We've seen millions of real applications, hundreds of thousands of really real hiring decisions, real hiring outcomes, and real hiring challenges across industries like automotive, healthcare, and hospitality. And that experience is what gives us a deeper understanding of what employers like you are actually looking for when they evaluate candidates. So it helps us understand the roles being hired for, the qualifications that matter, and the patterns that emerge across hiring in your industry. So when we talk about AI built for hiring, we're not starting with a blank page. It's grounded in the 16 years of understanding that we have about what hiring actually looks like for a business like yours. That understanding has to show up in the way that the product actually works for you. So your roles are different. A service technician or a CNA require different skills and different qualifications, and the AI needs to understand those differences right out of the box. Your workflow is different too. So the technology needs to fit into the way your hiring managers actually want to hire rather than asking them to completely rewire how they work or add a bunch of time and effort to their plate. They just do not have that capacity. And because you're making decisions about people, compliance can't be an afterthought. The AI needs to operate within the expectations that come with making hiring decisions and within the legal frameworks that are proliferating state by state. And so that's what we mean by AI built for frontline hiring. Intelligence designed around the way you actually hire, not just some generic layer added on top. So when we put all of this together, the goal here is not just to put AI into your platform. We built these capabilities to solve the problem that you have. Help your team find and hire the candidates who have the skills and qualifications your role requires. Do it at scale, do it consistently, do it in a compliant manner. So that means helping you surface information that matters most. You've got to evaluate them against the requirements you've defined and help your team get a clearer picture of who's worth moving forward and spending more human time with. And we've built that intelligence into this hiring journey. So it's going to support your team from the moment a candidate applies all the way through the hiring decision. And the important thing is that AI is doing the work that takes time and creates friction. So we want to take that administrative overhead and friction off your plate while your team stays in control of the decisions that really matter, making a choice about who to move forward with or not. And so that's what I'm really excited to show you here today. And so we're going to show you exactly what that looks like. So, John, I'm going to hand this over to you now to take them through it.
All right, Adam, thanks for the handover. A lot to talk about today, and I'll try to stay on time, but there's a lot that I'd love to cover today. So let's dive into it. All right, so first, we want to look at this hiring journey as a whole unit. What you're seeing here are three capabilities that each solve a distinct part of the hiring process, but they're designed to work together as one connected intelligence layers. These are not partner capabilities. We built them so they communicate together and they can evolve together. They're right into the Hireology platform, not partners. AI Match helps your team evaluate candidates against the requirements of the role. AI Interviewer helps screen candidates and gather more information. And AI Candidate Summary helps your team understand the candidate and bring that information together. Each capability can deliver value on its own, but again, when they work together, that value compounds. The intelligence you gain from evaluating a candidate can inform how you screen them. The information gathered through that screening gives your team more context when it's time to understand and ultimately make the decision. The result is a more connected hiring experience where each step gives your team better information for the next. Let's start with the first step in that journey, evaluating candidates against what the role requires. So we're going to start with AI Match. Now, AI Match is all about evidence gathering and summarization from your resume, from your application, and more. All right, so this is where the difference between generic AI and purpose-built hiring AI becomes really tangible. Traditional matching tends to look for keywords, but hiring managers don't actually think about candidates in terms of keywords. they think about qualifications. So if we're looking for service techs, we care about ASE certifications. RNs, state RN license, and CNA certifications. And because we're built for the roles you hire, we can surface that information consistently in the same place, and you can filter for it in a way that you've never been able to before, specifically for the roles that you're building. So now we can answer the question, does this person have the experience we need? Do they have the certifications? Have they demonstrated the skills that matter for this particular role? Think about jumping in and out of 5, 10, 20 resumes and trying to remember what you saw on each resume. Now it's visually present and you can filter and see it. It just changes the amount of time it takes you to get through and get the right people to the next step. It's better for you and it's better for the candidate. AI match allows employees to define, and you can define those requirements on the job. So we'll come with some out of the box. AI will help you get those set up, but you can also define whatever your requirements are that you want. So the AI isn't, applying some universal definition of a good candidate. It's evaluating the candidates against the criteria that you, the employer, have said matter. Okay, on to now. When we think about these tools, we have to think about using them responsibly. And so let's start with AI Match. One of the things that's really important to understand about AI Match is that it's responsible AI doesn't start when the model evaluates the candidate. It starts much earlier. So even when you're just setting the criteria, we're going to make sure you do it well. When an employer sets up attributes for a job, we have EEO validation built directly into that experience. As you're defining what you want the AI to look for, the system can flag an attribute that may indicate discrimination, isn't related to the qualifications of the job, or isn't connected to the relevant past experience. That's an important distinction because we don't want to simply give you powerful matching engine and then leave you to determine whether every input is appropriate. We're putting guardrails into the process where those decisions are being made. Then, once those job specific attributes are established, AI Match evaluates candidates against them. You can see the evidence behind the match, where the AI found the relevant information, and why it's associated with that attribute. So there are really two layers of transparency here. What we're asking the AI to evaluate and how AI reached its recommendation. That's what we mean when we say responsible AI is built into the product rather than as a report after the fact. All right, let's talk about AI Interviewer. One of the biggest constraints in frontline hiring is just your time. You may have hundreds of applicants, but you can't realistically have someone from your team call every person for a first round screen. That creates a challenge for candidates too. Only 15% of employers say that their average time to first outreach is the same business day. And 43% of candidates say that they've ghosted because of a lack of communication and transparency. We often assume candidates won't want to interact with AI Interviewer. But from a candidate's perspective, hearing from an AI agent can be a much better experience than hearing nothing at all. That's why we designed AI Interviewer around three things that matter to candidates. First, now they can choose when to complete the interview. If they want to do it in the middle of the night, they can. If they want to do it in the morning, they can. They choose the language that they're most comfortable using. That makes the initial conversation more accessible to candidates. And they get a consistent evaluation. The interview follows a structured set of questions and evaluation criteria, giving every candidate the same opportunity to demonstrate their fit for the role. It's more fair for your candidates and widens your pool. On the hiring side, your team gets the transcript, summary, and assessment back in the candidate profile. So AI Interviewer isn't about replacing the human part of hiring. It's about making sure the first step actually happens, giving candidates a better experience and giving your team the information they need to decide who deserve that deeper conversation. All right, the AI interview also gives us an opportunity to address something that's really important in responsible AI, and that's consistency. If different recruiters conduct interviews differently, candidates can end up being evaluated against completely different standards. A structured AI interview gives employees the ability to establish a consistent framework for those initial conversations and allows you to discern more equally. But consistency doesn't mean removing the human. The hiring team can see what happened in the interview, review the transcript and the summary, and decide what happens next. And that's really the pattern you'll see across everything we've built. We use AI to create consistency, speed, and scale, and we keep humans responsible for the decision. AI candidate summary. Let's think about the reality of the person doing the hiring. They're not sitting at a desk with an hour blocked off to deeply review every application. They could be running a dealership, managing a clinical team, or managing a location. When the candidate applies, candidate summary gives them a fast way to understand that person. It surfaces the strengths that matter, areas they may want to explore, and even questions they can use in an interview later on. And importantly, this isn't just generic AI summarizing a resume. The goal is to give the hiring manager context that's relevant to the role they're hiring for. That's the difference between putting AI next to the hiring process and actually designing AI around the hiring process. The goal here isn't to have AI make the hiring decision for your team. It's to take some of the work off their plate, bring the most relevant information forward, and give them more time to focus on the candidates who deserve attention. Because ultimately, hiring teams still need to make the decision. They shouldn't have to spend so much time getting to the information they need to make it. Let's step back from the individual features and look at what this means for hiring teams. When you put these capabilities together, the value isn't really about having three AI features. It's about giving your hiring team time back. Candidate summary helps them understand the applicant faster. Match helps them focus on candidates who best align with the role. Interview helps them handle that initial screening without requiring someone on the team to make every phone call. And importantly, the AI isn't taking the hiring decision away from them. It's helping them spend less time on repetitive parts of the hiring and more time on the conversations and decisions where their judgment matters. That's what we mean when we say AI works the way you hire. But giving your team more time only matters if they can trust the technology they're using. And that's where the other half of this conversation comes in. Adam, back to you.
So we've spent a lot of time talking about what our AI platform can do, but as AI in hiring becomes a bigger part, another question becomes just as important. Can I understand what it's doing? Can my team oversee it? And can I trust how it gets there? And so these are the questions that all of you should be asking as employers. And 84% of employers say human oversight in AI assisted hiring is extremely or very important. We agree with that. And so that's how we think about it too. Responsible AI wasn't something we added after the product was built. It was part of the product requirements from the very beginning. So building the technology ourselves means we control the underlying system here at Hireology, and we can build transparency, oversight, and guardrails directly into the product. We did not go buy some third-party AI tool and wire it into Hireology. This is Hireology IP. You've already seen some of that in Match and Interview. So let's make the human role in the process even clearer. This is probably the most important thing to understand about how we design these capabilities. AI Match can recommend candidates, right? Candidate summary can surface relevant information and evidence about that person's qualifications for the role. And then AI interview can provide a structured initial assessment of their fit. But none of these systems makes a hiring decision. None of these systems rejects an applicant. The hiring team, you as the employer, retain the ability to review all information, challenge a recommendation, override it, or decide to move forward for a completely different reason. You are still completely in control. And we think that's what human-centered AI should look like in a hiring process today. The technology takes on the repetitive work and helps your organization compile and organize the information. The people responsible for hiring remain responsible for the decision, and that's the way it needs to be. John, back to you.
John, you're on mute.
Thanks, Meg. I wonder how long I would have went on without that. All right. Another important part of responsible AI is independent oversight. We partner with Warden AI as an independent AI auditor to evaluate our AI for fairness and transparency. Their work gives us another layer of accountability beyond what we evaluate internally, using established frameworks and guidance around responsible AI and employment practices. It's about compliance. This is really about compliance with Title VII. No adverse action against protected class. For our customers, that's important because responsible AI shouldn't rely solely on the company building the technology to evaluate itself. Independent auditing gives customers another level of confidence that these systems are being evaluated thoughtfully as they evolve. There's one final piece of this that I think is important, practically particularly for the teams responsible for security, HR, legal, or compliance. We built the Trust Center as a central piece where customers can see the documentation behind our approach. On the security side, Hireology undergoes an annual independent SOC 2 type audit covering the design and operating effectiveness of our security controls. On the AI side, you can see information about our responsible AI approach, including our ongoing fairness and bias assessments through Warden AI. And rather than treating compliance as a static document, we're continuing to build out the information and resources customers need as AI regulations and expectations evolve. The goal is simple. If your legal or compliance team has a question about how Hireology protects data, how our AI is governed, or how we're evaluating fairness, you shouldn't have to start a 6-week email chain to get an answer. The information should be documented, accessible, and verifiable. That's what the Trust Center is here for.
Okay, so we started today with a simple idea, and that's that hiring for your business in your industry is unique. Your hiring AI should be too. And hopefully you've seen our perspective and what we mean by that. We didn't start with a generic AI model. We didn't go buy some third-party tool and plug it in and try and figure out where to fit it. We started with our own 16 years of experience in serving businesses like yours and how our customers actually hire. So we built our AI hiring tool around that intelligence. We built it right into our hiring workflow. We built guardrails around how it's used, and we built transparency and human oversight into the core experience. So, in summary, you got candidate summary that's helping your team understand applicants faster. It's so much more than keyword matching, right? It gives you the context of their experience and surfaces qualifications in a way, as John said earlier, you can filter and search on those things. That's really a time saver. AI Match helps you focus on the candidates who best align with the requirements of the job, right? So it tells you where to prioritize your time at the start of the review process. And then finally, Hireology's AI interview helps you scale those first conversations. So when we look at, historically, our customers have really only been able to cover between 50 and 6%, 50 and 60% of all applications, right? So many of you are going through the process of trying to figure out how to drive applicant flow. But if you peek below the hood, what you'll find in your company is you've got 50, 60, 70% of your applicants don't even get a look. And it makes sense why, right? Because you're busy. You find people that look like they're good and you kind of don't have time for the rest. And when the next job rolls around, you start from scratch. In most cases, you don't have an applicant flow problem. What you have is a process problem, and you've got a scale and breadth of coverage problem. And so all of these capabilities today are the beginning of a connected AI layer across the hiring journey that's native in Hireology. This is where we believe this technology is going. And we really believe we're on the forefront of this for industries where people are essential. You're hiring frontline workers at scale. You're trying to do it consistently across a portfolio of businesses, dozens or hundreds of locations, right? It is a unique use case. And so this is not AI for AI's sake. This is AI that actually understands the way you hire. And that's what we mean by AI hiring built for you. So with that, we'd love to spend the rest of our time hearing from you. So we've got a couple of minutes left, and I'm sure it'd be much more fun for everyone to spend them asking the questions you've got, rather than hearing John and I talk at you any bit more. So Meg, let's open it up.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you guys so much for all the insightful information. It was great to hear how we built it, why we built the features, and John, even more about the compliance behind the features. So, our first question I have, and John or Adam, either of you can take this. Can you explain a little bit more about how does Warden AI's independent audit like actually work, and just more
Yeah.
detail behind that?
Sure. So, there's been a number of laws that are getting passed in New York and Colorado, and it's only becoming more prevalent where they want you to show evidence that you don't have bias against protected classes. So Title VII is all about no adverse action due to race, religion, sexual orientation, and what Warden AI is doing is we're able to evaluate each step independently. And basically what it's running thousands of resumes through or thousands of interviews through anonymously to ensure that there's no bias. There's like an 80% rule, which means no class can get through at a rate that's less than 80% of the highest rate. And so it runs all these through independently for us and for you. And so you have something, if you ever get audited, you have something to say, we cared about this and visually show an auditor that you are putting tools in place that ensure that it's not going to create a bias against one of those protected classes.
Great, great. Thank you
Yeah,
so
Meg,
much.
we got a question from Jessica, I think is a good
Yeah.
one to take.
Yeah, is that the AI interview? So on AI interview segment, what if the candidate chooses another language to interview in? However, we require English to communicate within our communities. How can we guarantee that the candidate can speak English in the community? Is there a language selection, or is the language selection an option for them to choose, or is it automatically built into the system?
So today they can pick the language, but this is something we've gotten as a request and will be in the product very shortly. So we understand, and we don't may not want someone to come in and do an interview in a language that you don't understand, and then a big part of it is English. And so this is going to be coming very soon in our platform. The ability to lock it down to the language you'd like it to, while also allowing flexibility when you want. Maybe there's housekeeping and and they speak Spanish, and that's not a problem. So we will allow flexibility for language support.
Yeah, and I just add to that. I mean, the tool, it's powerful in the sense that whatever structured interview has been set up for the role, AI interview, if a person, shows up and starts speaking Italian, the interview immediately switches to Italian. That's the default, John, right? The way that it works. But, we understand for roles where English is a requirement, it's in these customer facing roles in these care environments. The English as a skill needs to be tested as well. So we're excited to be working on that right now.
Great, great. We have another question from Karen. Is this already available in Hireology today, or do we need to upgrade our product to get these features?
Yeah, so AI Match is available in our Perform package offering, and it is available today. AI Interviewer is also available as an add-on. We are in a beta period now with AI Interviewer. So that's where we are.
Great. Yep. Yep. AI candidate summary and AI match are in the perform package, which if you are a current customer, it's just a conversion conversation with your CSM, and then AI interview. If you buy the perform package, it's available as an add-on to that. Next question, Rebecca. When it will be active and available? It's active now. So if you're a current customer, talk to your CSM. We can get you going on these new features. If you're a prospect, reach out to us. We'll make sure to send an email after this and we can schedule a demo and get you to make sure you reach out to one of our sales reps. So we'll get you connected either way. Another question, what happens if a recruiter disagrees with an AI match recommendation or an AI interview score? Is there something that happens there?
Yeah, so let's start with the AI match. The first thing with AI match, so yes, you can change them, you can override any of them. AI match is about helping you gather the evidence and then display it simply. So the way our software works is any of the matches that it makes, you can click, it will then bring up the resume, the application, highlight where in those documents it found the evidence, and then you can say, no, I don't agree with this, and you can change it. So it's editable in AI match. In AI interview, the same thing. You're going to have a set of questions. It's going to ask the questions very consistently and grade them very fairly, but there may be times you want to override that score. That is already built into the feature. And so you can override any score that the AI gives, and humans are in control.
Perfect. Thanks, John. We have another question from Karen. We have been with Hireology for a number of years. Can this AI package review all the resumes currently within our portal or only the resumes moving forward?
Okay, it's a great question. And the law is very nuanced around this. When someone applies, they have to see a consent form, which is now in place. And so people going forward, they have had to see that consent form. So that's one thing. So if you were to install this package, you know, it would be, I forget the date that we turned it on, but people are seeing that consent form. And so all of them will see that now. Now, your question is about past applicants. One thing you can do, so when they apply to a job, they have to have seen that consent form. But that is different than the requirement that they've applied to previous jobs and you now want to pull them forward for a new job. And so the law is different in that case. And so the answer to your question is yes, you're going to be able to do a lot of those things where you can use AI match on previous candidates um, to search for and do some things. There's some things we're putting in the application to do that. But the answer is yes, you can do that. But there's just some legalese that I wanted to go through there quickly so people understand, when they're using the product, how that all works.
Okay, perfect. How do you make sure that the AI doesn't introduce any bias into hiring?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about it. So Title VII and the law in general is pretty strict here. If you're ranking, routing, or rejecting applicants, Title VII is going to have a say in it. And so you have to do proactive auditing. And that's what we do with Warden AI at each individual step. So AI Interviewer is separately audited from AI Match. Now, we do as much as we can to um, um, make these tools all about evidence gathering and putting it in front of a human being to make that choice. But they are also independently audited because even something like AI Match that is only gathering and then making that evidence visible to you, it still will be used to rank, right? Even by human beings. And so each of them need an independent audit to ensure no class is getting through at a much higher rate than another class. And that's what they call the 80% rule.
Great. Thank you, John. We have another question from Gerald. Does the applicant see the consent form if they're manually added as an applicant or a candidate?
They do not, but in our tool, we have a flow for you to send it to them. And so if they're doing the interview, they have to see it. It's a part of the workflow. They'd have no way around it. For AI Match, we restrict you from using the tools if they haven't seen it. So if you add someone manually, there is a way to send that to them, asking them to do give the consent, and then it will work. or you can just score them yourself. So we are very cognizant of these different routes that someone can get in a job and being very thoughtful and careful with who gets that matching and who does not.
Yeah, I mean, this is so, Gerald, so much a tension between the automation that's available and powerful, where I mean, you could literally with this technology be completely hands off from application through to that interview, run it straight through. But it doesn't mean you should do that, and it doesn't mean you can do that. And so, as John said, I think appropriately the legal frameworks that are emerging in the country at federal, state, and municipal levels even are a good idea. You got to pump the brakes and keep the human in the loop, as they say. You don't want to automate away the human decision in the hiring process, because number one, that's not the right thing to do. Number two, you're going to end up in a problematic legal situation, and most of us here, familiar with some of the lawsuits going on. Meg showed one, kind of the highest profile one going through. You can't just put this stuff on autopilot, and so some of these things where you might go, okay, well, that's an extra step. Well, it's an extra step because it should be and needs to be. And so, we're constantly having these trade-off discussions about, how do we speed this up, but in a way that keeps our customers protected and our candidates free from adverse outcomes.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple of things too to this. It's not just Title VII. ADA is another one where you have to provide accommodations for those with disabilities. So our AI interviewer, we've allowed for those workflows to request accommodation or speed or how they might want to communicate. That's one thing. But I want to say this with AI. It's not just about the employers, it's about the person getting employed. It should be more fair to them, not less, at the hours that they can do, uh, giving people who wouldn't otherwise even have an opportunity to showcase their skills. They now get that opportunity to showcase their skills at a time that works for them and know that they're being graded fairly. So when we think about, you know, legal AI, really the guiding principle is make it fair, make it better for the candidate, not worse. And so I just wanted to add that as context, and that's how we think about it internally. And if you think about it that way, you're going to provide more opportunities to candidates to get better candidates in your door more fairly. That's really what it's about. And I just wanted to add that.
Mhm. John, to piggyback off of it a little bit, a little more technical, like what does a consent form look like and how is it sent to applicants?
Yeah, so it's a part of the application. So when they apply to the job, it is right there before they hit the submit button.
Much
Hey,
much like an EEO statement, right? It's very similar.
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect. We touched on this a little bit at the start, but how does Hireology's AI, like what's the biggest difference, why we built it ourselves versus using and partnering with an existing AI provider?
Yeah, I love this question. Let me give a couple of examples of why, and I'm going to hit because this is important. Let's take AI interviewer. The requirements our customers have are sometimes unique. Hiring is local, and generally our customers care about their local brand. So we didn't get into it, but our AI interviewer, as an example, you can do your colors, you can do a video, you can do your own AI agents, your own questions at the local level, right? So I care about my store. My store hiring is different maybe than the ownership group I'm part of. Not always, but sometimes. I may want to do a welcome video. I may want different agents, different questions, and the ability to configure up and down is a thing that we provide. AI match. We talked about it a little bit, but the ability to display the information in a consistent way and understand the things that our customers care about is something that we can uniquely create for them. I care about an ASC cert. I want to see that on every service tech in the same location, in the same spot, visually different than a standard generic AI match would build. And then lastly, think about how we can now merge these products in a way that others can't. So today I match, it's pulling data from the application, it's pulling data from the resume, and it's highlighting that for you. In the future, we'll be able to pull and highlight information that comes from the AI interviewer, right? And sort of combine those. AI summary is now pulling data from those other elements. So the answer, Meg, is our customers have unique requirements that we are now uniquely positioned to fulfill for them, and our tools can sing in harmony, if you will, and provide a better experience for the employees and the customers to get the right people hired.
Great. Yeah, thank you, John. Okay, one of our last questions we have
Hey,
is
hey,
there,
Meg, we've
yeah,
got there's a whole thread going on in chat. I
yeah,
just want to make sure we acknowledge the questions because they're great. Not everyone may be following along there.
yeah, let me go to that one. We're following,
We
I think Mary's in there messaging with them.
I know she is, but perhaps not all of our audience is in the chat window right now. So, Jessica asked what the dropout statistic is on AI interview. I mean, it's great. I mean, as Mary said, 93% completion rate. It's great. It's an experience we've really worked hard to craft there. Christy asked, John, have you considered, I love this question, have you considered making the scheduling feature more efficient? Talk about what we've done recently.
That's a great question. It's a little different, but we've done a ton of work. So whether that's the ability to text them, the ability to have your availability updated, and so things like I've got multiple calendars, I've got to manage them. I want to do video interviews has been released to the platform. I want to send in bulk and allow people to schedule. I want to do and send this via text. And so scheduling, you're going to get better results if you send via text. The display, the visuals, so much has changed recently with how we do interview scheduling. Very shortly, the ability to do panel interviews, and then post that, we want to do some work with pooling interviews. So a ton of work around just the basics of interviewing. And this is a part of it too, the AI interviewer, because a part of why you struggle sometimes to get people to interview is because they can't do it during their hours. So things like ghosting, getting them to do the things on their time is really important. And we've seen huge increases from these from the changes that we've made. 30% increase, 33% increase in just the number of interviews scheduled in the last 12 weeks. The number of users using it has gone up almost double. And so we've made a ton of changes, and there are more changes coming. We want to make scheduling easy for you on platform. And so a ton of work. I know I missed about 12 things, but hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
We have a couple more coming in. Jovi asked, what happens if an applicant doesn't upload a resume? How does the AI filter or evaluate the applicant's information in that case? We often have applicants who do not upload a resume, but still complete the pre-screening survey.
Yeah. So I mean, it's not going to be as effective, right? But it will look for evidence within the application. And I'm not sure if we have it yet, but we also want to have it look at the pre-screen survey. Now, there are tools to request that resume. So the short answer is it's going to look at the application data primarily.
Great. All right. And then we have Ruth. Are there plans to make Hireology more AI forward for proactive candidate sourcing directly within the platform rather than primarily managing and matching candidates already in our database? And I know this is on the roadmap as well.
All right, so let's talk about this one because there's a couple of elements to this question. I'll say that. I'm going to start here. The first thing that is becoming more valuable, whether our customers realize it or not, is their career site. The way that people apply to jobs is changing and is going to change more in the coming weeks, months, and years. So what do I mean by that? In the past, as an applicant, you would go to the job boards, and they still are. That's still where they're going. But what they're using more, and we see in the data, is that they're using AI to find and apply to the jobs. And so what AI is going to do, it's not going to go to the job boards, it's going to go to your career site. And so what that means is you want to make sure your career site is great. We're putting more effort into right now improving our career sites for AI bots. So In one element, that's something we're thinking about, and that development is active today. So there's that piece. We are also looking at other tools that we want to put in place. We are in active development to help you re-engage with past candidates to make that simpler. So that is happening today. And some of the things we talked about with AI Match will help you really drill down and get to the applicants that you want, the previous applications. We know that the world of hiring has changed. You have to sponsor now. This is the new reality. We want to make it so that you sponsor once, you have that applicant, and now you can re-engage with them as you'd like to. Pay for the applicant once effectively, as much as is possible. But that's not the only thing we're looking at. We're also looking at, can we look for leads that are out there? And we're looking at some partnerships that might be able to help us a little bit with that kind of thing. That's a little further out. So, but today we are actively working on improving your career site to help AI find your jobs, and we are working on sourcing tools that will allow you to recampaign past applicants. This is work that's in development, and I know the next question is going to be, what's the timeline? We don't have those things locked down, but I can tell you we have hands-on keyboards working on them today.
Great. Thank you, John. Or I guess we have a couple more questions. Can we talk a little bit more about like the costs that comes with upgrading to these features? Shelley let us know that with a sales job, they have a hard time giving up human interaction with a role that kind of needs to be human forward. How do these features help with those jobs that maybe are a little human forward versus ones that are more behind the scenes?
Yeah. Okay. So what you're going to find, there's different sets of tools for different situations, right? If I'm hiring for certain roles, I may not want to send them to an AI interviewer. If it's a high profile role, maybe I just call them and reach out to them myself, right? So you're going to have high turnover roles. You may use the tools for AI interview more or less for, depending on the role that you're hiring. And then with AI Match, there's no role you wouldn't want it on. And so it's going to surface the right information and allow you to get to the right people. Again, the difference between jumping into 10 resumes and remembering who had what, and those days are going to be gone. You're going to be able to see at a glance the people that applied. And what it's going to allow you to do is get to the people that are qualified and get to them more quickly and beat the competition. You're all kind of fighting for the same roles. We want to make sure that Hireology customers are hiring the best talent, and that's about speed and simplicity and getting the data into your hands. So I think, Meg, what I'm saying is matches for every role. AI interviewer, you want to be smart about the roles that you want to use it for, and the roles that maybe you're like, no, if I'm hiring an executive level, I don't want to use it. And maybe some of your sales roles, you would make the decision about whether you want to use it or not.
Yep.
The biggest consideration, in my opinion, John and I talk a lot about this, is not necessarily, well, this is a higher skill communicator role like a sales position or maybe even a service writer role in dealership or a dietitian in a facility, the communication skills matter. That's all true. But the conclusion, I don't want to use AI interview for those higher communication skill roles, I think is a false premise. Because I guarantee you, if together we looked inside your hiring process and your results, there would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40% of applicants who were perfectly qualified for that role that never got a look. So, and I will tell you from our own research, what these candidates are saying is, and we had it on a slide, but I just want to hammer home the point. I would rather hear back from the employer and get a fair look from an AI interview, first pass interview agent, than hear nothing. Like the worst candidate experience in the world is submitting an app, spending 30 minutes putting an application together and putting my best foot forward and just never hearing anything ever. And I mean, everyone laments that. I mean, it's this biggest pet peeve that candidates have. This addresses that issue. And so at a minimum, everyone gets a look. Everyone gets a look. And it's not based on gut feel, it's based on quantifiable information that is provable. It's provable, discoverable evidence. And so why not cover everyone? why not just cover everyone? There's like no downside or time sink to do that. And so, it's a little bit of a soapbox item for me, but so many of our customers will say, well, look, we've got to find more applicants. And we look in the data and it's like, well, you're not reviewing 40% of the ones you're already getting. In time and or sponsorship budget or other ways, you're paying for that funnel. Cover the funnel, cover all leads. I'm sure that's what your organization tells your sales team. Get them, cover all leads. I mean, that's essentially what we're trying to do here, but the candidates actually prefer it that way. So I would challenge you if you're thinking it's not for X role. The alternative is 40% of those folks don't get a look. I would argue that's the worst outcome, quite honestly.
Yeah. And John, to close us out, how can our current Hireology users look to see what features are currently available in their Hireology plan?
So these, I mean, if they were talking about these specific ones,
Yeah, these
they're gonna
ones
be-
wouldn't be there quite yet. They would need a conversation with their CSM, right?
that's exactly right. Yep.
Yep. Yep. And so we'll make sure everyone that's attending this, we'll make sure your CSM knows you've attended. If you've asked questions, we'll flag them to your CSM. But the conversation about the price and the conversion, we'll have the CSM lead that conversation just to make sure. But we appreciate everyone attending today. It looks like we have one final question right before we round out at the top of the hour. Jessica's wondering, AI interview, can we listen to the actual interview or does it come in written format?
Both. You can listen and it's written.
Right. So
Perfect.
for candidates that require an accommodation, maybe they've got a hearing issue, AI interview will run in text, correct, John?
That's right.
Great.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Wait, Adam, you're asking if they can text in. I actually don't know if that's in there.
I'm
So I don't
saying that
know.
the interview transcript is
Yes, the
presented.
interview transcript is.
That
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone, for attending today. Adam and John, thank you so much for all your insights. We're excited to get these features live and in your hands. If you have any questions post-webinar, please feel free to reach out to us, our support team, your CSMs. If you want to schedule a demo, we'll make sure you can do that as well. But we appreciate everyone attending today. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Meg.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.